right, here we have a 2009 Ford Fusion SEL model, and it has 154,257 miles. This car is here, for one, it's a little bit over on an oil change. We're going to do a pretty basic tune-up. It's not going to be an exciting video. I'm sure, you know, most of you out there know how to do a tune-up. But this one's kind of interesting because, along with having a tune-up, I'm not sure if it's, you know, oil related or not, but there is a noise under the hood. It's kind of like hard to explain, almost like a slurping or a rattling noise. I'm going to start the engine here. I'm going to put some engine cleaner in it and let it run for a few minutes before I do the oil change, and then I have spark plugs, an air filter, and obviously the oil to put in it. And then I'm going to throw a PCV valve in because stop the dinging. I'm going to throw a PCV valve in because I think that the noise may be coming from the PCV valve. Also, you know, the PCV can be part of, you know, the tune-up. I don't know if it's ever been changed in this particular vehicle. And also, let's pop the hood. And also, you know, it's just part of, you know, maintenance kind of. At 160,000 miles, I think it's, you know, worthwhile putting a PCV valve in it. So we'll see if that, you know, cures that noise. Otherwise, you know, this thing will probably be back. We'll probably be diagnosing that. It could be, you know, a VVT solenoid. Could be something of that sort. I'm really hoping not, but it could be. Also, the steering wheel tends to kind of drift as you're driving, so we've got some suspension things we're gonna try and diagnose as well. So, not, like I said, not gonna be an exciting video, but you know, we'll go through and we'll get her done. So I've got the hood popped. I'm gonna put in the engine cleaner and let it run for a little bit, and I will be back after that. Okay, so I've got the car jacked up on jack stands. I did let it warm up and come up to engine temp, or to running temperature, after I put the engine cleaner in. This is gonna be a little more of a job than I thought it was gonna be. Still not too bad. Obviously, we're gonna have to take off, you know, this upper intake air filter housing and the intake tube. I think I'm gonna leave the throttle body attached to the upper intake and then try to take that off as one. I do remember last time I did a little bit of work on this. I did some valve covers and whatnot, valve cover gaskets, I'm sorry. The EGR here was kind of a pain to deal with. We'll try to attack it at a different angle this time. Maybe it'll be a little easier, but like I said, I will have to take off, you know, the upper intake manifold here. Like I said, I do have it up on jack stands, and the jack's still underneath it. So at this point, I'm going to climb underneath and drain the oil and get the new oil filter on. That way I can let it down, because that's all I have to do under the car. Everything else is done up top here. So I will get underneath there, and that's where we'll see you guys again, draining the oil in that. Okay, I'm under this Ford Fusion here, and before I drain the oil, I want to, you know, point out, we'll probably end up having to see in this car again, because we've got some massive oil leaks underneath here. I can't pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. You can see there's a drip right there. Everything's just kind of wet underneath here, you know, this motor mount dripping. So we'll have to, you know, get this back at some point and diagnose where these oil leaks are coming from. For now, we're just going to address the concern of, you know, a tune-up oil change and those things, and then I will let, you know, the owner know, hey, you've got some massive oil leaks. We should probably get that, you know, taken care of, because like I said, I did notice that, you know, this car was over on oil change, and also it was low on oil. I did add 1.5 quarts before I put the engine cleaner in, just to make sure that it wasn't running low on oil, or oil pressure for that matter. So we're going to have to address this. This is a major concern. I don't know if it's the oil pan leaking or if it's coming from further up. It's hard to tell because everything's so dirty. So I just wanted to point that out before I drain this oil. So this is oil plug, looks like, oh, I don't know, maybe a 15 mil. Let's try, see if we can't. Yeah, it is in fact, 15's kind of loose. I'll get the right wrench on that. We'll get that drained. And I just had oil drip on my face, so. Okay, so the car's, the drain plug's back in, new oil filter's on, and the car's been filled with oil. I've got it down off the jack stands. And the reason I'm filling it with oil right now, as opposed to when I'm done, is so I don't forget. I've got a lot more work to do on this car, including, you know, taking off the upper intake and all that, doing all that, I don't want to, you know, towards the end of the job, I get excited because it's almost done and happen to forget to put oil in it. So anyways, that's why I put oil in it right now as opposed to when it's done. We will check, obviously, that's going the wrong way. We will obviously check the oil level before we start it up, but we do know that there's oil in it, so in case we don't check the oil level, at least we know that we're covered that way. So I'm gonna prop this the camera up and start taking off the intake so I can get to the spark plugs and everything. So we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, I've got you guys set up up there. I know it's kind of hard to see. I don't have a real good place to put the camera, but I'm going to start with taking off, like I said, this upper air filter housing and the intake boot, and then I will proceed to take off some of the fasteners and see how difficult it's going to be. Wasn't too hard. Last I remember I had the intake off, I redid the upper and lower seals or gaskets on the intake, as well as the valve cover gaskets. That was probably a couple years ago now, but anyway, I'm gonna get to work, start unclipping some things and unplugging some things. I did disconnect the battery, even though I'm not necessarily doing any electrical involved repair on this. It is good practice to disconnect the battery anyway. And I'm going to disconnect this hose. If you guys can see that from where you're at, I'm going to disconnect that hose from the intake boot there, because there's a wire that runs up the backside and I don't want to have to, you know, mess around with possibly, it's a very thin wire, I don't want to mess around with possibly breaking that. So I'm going to go around here, kind of disconnect a bunch of connectors, and this is the PCV hose there. I'll disconnect that. There's some clamps on some breather hoses and things back here. So let me grab a pair of pliers. I would love to have one of those fancy hose clamp pliers, but just haven't gotten around to purchasing that yet. So let's see. I don't know if these needle nose will take that off. Yeah, sure, we'll get it. And then we'll just disconnect that. This one was already, I may have forgotten to put the clamp back on there, but that's just a vacuum line. So like I said, we'll get all these vacuum lines disconnected. EGR unplugged. That'll get out of the way there. Wiggle that free. It's kind of windy. I apologize if the audio is not the greatest. I record that on my phone. That's just a cap on there. That doesn't even need to come off. Record these videos on my phone because obviously just starting. I'm not going to go out and invest in an expensive fancy camera right now. But alright, we've got that's disconnected, batteries off. Looks like we should be good to take this intake boot off. Yeah, we should be good. That's a 8mm there. We'll disconnect that. That's tight. We need to loosen. There we go. Get that out of the way. There we go. Set that off to the side. Now I took that off. I probably could have left that as one piece when I took the top off here. I don't know if there's any fasteners underneath hidden that I'll need to get to, so it's just easier to take that off. I got to do a air filter replacement on this thing anyways. That's a little bit overdue on that, so we'll throw that off to the side too. Looks like we've got 4 here, and I think there's 4 there. We'll start with that. Like I said, I may end up taking the throttle body off because I don't know if it'll be easier to disconnect the EGR, the hard line that goes in the bottom of the EGR, or if it'll be easier to take it off of the actual manifold. Last I remember a bit of a bear to get that back inside there. So let me see how we want to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I have to disconnect it here. Try and get that out. Let's do that. I don't want to mess with that hard line down there and possibly cause any type of leaks or anything. So I'm going to disconnect it. I'm going to go with the safe route and just disconnect it up here again. I am breaking these free by hand with the ratchet. I mean, I'm using the cordless ratchet, but I'm not just right off the bat dropping the battery on it. one, I don't want to put the extra wear and tear on my ratchet, and two, I kind of want to feel how tight they are, or you know, if something's going wrong, you know, it's taking the fastener off, not putting it on, so nothing should be going wrong, but you never know. So I'll crack them loose and then bring them out the rest of the way that way. This one back here, I might be able to sneak around the EGR and get onto. I may not be able to. Yeah. Let me grab a small extension and see if I can't. See if I can't get enough on it to get around the back here. Yeah, there we go. Come on, there we go. It broke free. I don't want to drop anything because I don't want to have to try and find it later. That should be hand tight. This is going to be the longest part of the video. Obviously, this is going to be a little more in depth than a typical, you know, evap that we did in the last video, or you know, an oil change obviously is. So this will be a little more interesting, a little in depth, and that kind of came free out there. So cowl bolt tray for the win. It should be pretty easy to get in and out of there. So we'll continue taking some of this off here. Crack them out free. And bring them out a little bit. There's one right here. I don't know if you guys can see all of this, and like again, I apologize if you can't see all of it, but I can't necessarily hold the phone as I have been doing previously, and also get this job done effectively and in a timely manner, because I've got things to do today. I can't spend all day doing this. So, alright, they're all loose now. Now we can lose the ratchet and just start pulling them out by hand, I think. Yeah, I like it. Are these captive? They are. I love it. Captive bolts on there, so we don't have to worry about them falling out or losing any of them. That's nice. There we go. Take all those out. Once we get this off, and it seems to be fairly straightforward getting it off to this point, it shouldn't be difficult doing, you know, the spark plugs and everything. You know, most people, or some people, you know, if they don't know, they open the hood and they see this in the way to those back spark plugs, and they, you know, they kind of worry or stress out about it and end up taking it to, you know, their mechanic. Obviously, that's why I'm working on this, but this is, you know, owned by a woman. Not saying that she couldn't do it, but you know, she probably feels more comfortable with somebody with experience or kind of knows something more doing it. That's why it's here. But yeah, like I said, you know, some people would see that and kind of, oh, how do you know, I'm not going to do all that, or how would you get to it, or you know, it's really not that difficult if you kind of just, you know, realize what's going on and what you need to do. It's really not terrible to do. I've got something holding me up on the back side there. What is going on there? Oh, I've got some lines on the bottom of, you know what, I'm gonna take the throttle off, just because I think it'll be easier. I can just lay that off to the side, no big deal. So let's get a 10 mil and a short extension tools, and get that taken off there. I should have done that. See, I should have done that first, but I thought I could take it all off as one piece, and unfortunately I cannot, I don't think. So, or I mean, I probably could, but I don't want to fight with it trying to get the vacuum lines or what have you that are still connected to it off. Nope, I don't want to do that. And one more here. There's 4 bolts on the throttle here, 2 on each side, front and back, or top and bottom, however you want to look at it. You can lift up on it just here, get that last one. Come here. I don't want to drop you. I don't want to drop you. There we go. All right. Like I said, I can just kind of. Whoa. All right. Well, that was not good. So it appears some of the leaks that we've seen down below may have been coolant and oil mixed. It appears as though there's a coolant bypass that runs through the throttle body, and that cracked, and when I moved that throttle it broke off. So this repair just turned into a slightly larger repair. That stinks. Here, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. When I moved that throttle body, there was a connector, a nipple on the bottom of that hose there. Apparently broke off. So we'll be fixing that too, but that's unfortunate. Let's keep going with this intake and getting that portion completed. I don't know how much or where that part's going to be available or how much it's going to be, but it needs to be replaced at this point. So I'll pull the EGR back a little bit. We've got a fuel line coming in. We should be able to disconnect. There's a hose clamp right there. It's kind of irritating on that coolant fitting, but that's kind of what we do, you know. Stuff happens. Not a big deal. It's not anybody's fault. It's not like I cranked on the thing, or it was probably brittle, and kind of probably fortunate that it happened now while we're in here as opposed to later on down the road. So we'll get her fixed up, and no big deal. We'll get that hose clamp off. Get that line disconnected. Camera it off. No big deal. What else do we have holding us up? Anything else? I don't see anything else that should be connected, unless these bolts aren't all the way loose, in which case, that's the thing too, jiggling these around. Sometimes the fasteners can get tightened back in there. I'm not sure where I put the 8mm I was using. That's a doozy. Cool. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, sometimes the fasteners can get kind of screwed back in a little bit because of vibration when you're moving stuff around. And there's the upper intake manifold off. We'll just set that off to the side, and there we go. We've got, I don't know if you guys can see that, we've got access to, you should be able to see it, the back 3 coil on plug system. We've got access to the front 3, no big deal. Actually gives us better access to that fitting there as well. It's kind of stinks, but like I said, it is what it is. So that's fun. That's cool. It's just a little bypass fitting or something like that. So and more 8mm to take off the coils. We'll go ahead and get them unplugged right now. 1, 2. Come here. That one's a little tough there. There we go. There's the 3 on the front are unplugged. 1, 2, 3. There you go. I said at the beginning of the video it wasn't going to be very interesting, just a typical kind of tune-up and those upper. I said it was going to be a very exciting video, and then we go ahead and break something. So the video gets more exciting as we go. I like it. I love it. All right, let me see if I can find. Where I put that 8mm at. Oh, I moved stuff over. I didn't set it up there. Where the heck did it go? Oh no. Do you guys happen to see where I put that down at? That 8mm extension. This is what makes jobs take longer than they should. Misplacing of the tools. Did it drop? Got another one. Just kind of interested to know. Oh, it's on. It was on the attachment the whole time. Jeez. Again, I will crack them free, break them free with the by hand. I won't apply the tool to them until after they're broken free. And then that should be good. I'll get this one. Move on to the back. Set these 6 off to the side, not to get them mixed up with those other bolts that we took off for the EGR valve, because they're about similar, but I want to make sure that these all go back in the correct place where they should go. Also, since I'm working outside and the wind's blowing a little bit, I'm going to take some paper towel and shove them down in those intake runners, just so nothing happens to blow in there and get down in the motor that we do not need on top of what we have going on already. This one got wet, so I'm just gonna wipe up some of that with this one and clean up some of that water that got spilled, antifreeze that got spilled, sorry. And then I'm gonna take and just put these down in here. This is also good practice if you're gonna do anything yourself that involves having any type of open orifice into the motor, whether you be working on the intake or even exhaust, or if you're going to take off the valve covers, make sure you cover everything, because it's a direct line down into the motor, or even the oil pan if you're taking the valve covers off, and that's just introducing contamination into the engine that you don't want or need. Alright, these should come off fairly easily. Not much corrosion. There's really not corrosion inside there, so should be good. Like I said, this vehicle didn't have any type of engine code or misfire. Didn't have any like abnormal vibrations or anything like that. It's just preventative maintenance. I mean, owner of the vehicle wants the vehicle to last as long as possible, and we're going to try and assist with that. So I will get the spark plugs out next. This guy, I believe, is the ticket. Correct? Yep. I'm going to do it by hand. I'm not going to use the electric ratchet. I don't like it. Take them out by hand. That way I can feel if anything's going wrong or abnormal. It might take a little longer, but you know, there's no, for the extra couple minutes, there's nothing like peace of mind of knowing that you did everything, as far as you're concerned, you did everything correctly, or you know, didn't take any unnecessary shortcuts that could have led to any type of damage. Case in point, like I said, as easily as that broke, I'm not positive that it wouldn't have happened no matter what I did there. It literally just kind of fell off. So we'll take that one on the chin and keep moving. And now you'll notice I'm not using a spark plug socket, so these are not coming out with my socket. I will have to reach down in there and grab them with a little grabby tool. So no big deal. I don't mind doing that. I've used spark plug sockets in the past, and I've had them work really well, and I've had them not work really well. I've had the, you know, the rubber inserts get stuck on them. I've had them. It's just, I have nothing against them. Like I said, I've had ones that work really well, and I've had ones that don't work so well. And to me, it's just easier or whatever just to do this. I don't mind. It takes 2 seconds. So, all right, we've got them all loose. I'm going to continue to run those out and grab them all out of there. I'm going to grab my grabber tool, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, so I'm back, and a couple of trips to the parts store later. I've got that new elbow replaced in there. Kind of a little bit of a pain to do. I did keep a couple of the pieces of the old one, so you guys can see as I was taking the piece that broke off inside of the hose out. I mean, look how thin that is and brittle. I mean, it literally just crumbled when I was taking it apart. So that thing was on its way out anyway. So maybe a blessing in disguise that we caught it now, rather than, you know, after we gave the vehicle back to, you know, the customer and they were driving and something happened and we'd come back and they'd be upset. So no big deal. Like I said, here's the part number in case that happens to you. It's a Napa Auto Parts. I got it 6601484. It was like $8 or $9 or something like that. And you know, it's kind of a terrible design. Like, you get plastic with that many heat cycles, and this thing's got, you know, 160,000 miles on it or whatnot, and you know, plastic, and it gets hot, heats up, cools off, and got coolant running through there. Those things get brittle and they tend to break. So no big deal. We got that on. I'm going to continue. I've got all the spark plugs loose. I'm going to get those pulled out right now and get new ones in, and get the camera set up over here in the holder, and we'll finish this up. We're running, you know, not really running out of daylight, but I got other things I'd like to be doing today, so we'll hurry up and get this done. All right, I got you guys set up in the old camera holder up there. Like I said, we'll continue to just loosen these guys all up and get them up out of here. So you know, it's not unusual for a somewhat, you know, you think a job should be real simple, straightforward. It's not unusual for unforeseen things like that to happen. Minor setback, you know, really, in the grand scheme of things. So I'm not at all in the least bit upset about it. Like I said, it's kind of maybe a blessing that it happened while I'm working on it rather than after the fact, and then you know, possibly have someone thinking that you know, I'm not good at what I do, or that I don't know what I'm doing, or something like that, which, you know, to each his own. If you have that opinion, then it is what it is. You know, heaven forbid something like that happen to anyone else who's working on something like this, but with the design of that particular part, that T that broke down there, and just how, you know, thin the plastic is and everything, I doubt that that's an uncommon occurrence, to be honest. So kind of like a thing, you know, back in the day, some of the Ford Explorers or some of the Ford V8 motors had like issues where the spark plugs would break off in the heads. I mean, you think a tune-up's going to be easy, and then you get something like that, you know. So we're definitely replacing those guys. We're going to put some you know, dielectric on the boots as well when we put the new plugs in and everything, to try and keep that moisture out of there. And yeah, these things they're terrible. Look at I mean, they got a little bit of grease on them. Motocraft, that's Motorcraft, that's I believe Ford brand. These may be OE. These may be the original spark plugs. I really friggin' hope not, but I mean, look at that. I'm not going to show you guys all of them, but I mean, look at the yeah, that's not good. Yeah, not good at all. So let me get the rest of these out. This is that grabber I was talking about. Like, I prefer to just use this and get, rather than relying on a spark plug socket that may or may not work, if I can get a hold of. Did I not loosen that one? Yeah, I did. There we go. Rather than relying on a spark plug socket that may or may not grab a hold of them and everything, it's just as easy to grab them usually like this, but unless you can't get a hold of it for some reason. Did I not loosen that one? Yeah, I don't know if I did or not. Let's double check. Maybe a spark plug socket would be better. I don't know. Usually don't have an issue. Obviously I can't lean over and see that back spark plug tube back there to see, but usually getting a hold of them ain't too difficult. Where are you at? Let's see if I can lean back and see. No. What is going on? Give me it. I don't have a long magnet with me either right now. What is going on? Easy jobs. Never so easy. I can tell it's loose. At least I think I can. Maybe. Double check. Are you actually coming out? Yeah. I think it's loose. Let's see. Yes. Interesting. That doesn't seem to want to. I hope that one didn't break. It's not seeming to want to let go. It's loose. It's in there. I can see it. Let's see. There we go. All right. Stupid. Silly thing. There's the last one we got out of there. I mean, look at these things. Them are. I've definitely seen worse. I've seen better. So definitely time for a tune-up. You know. So let me grab the new stuff. I'll get those put in. I'm sure you guys have seen. You know, maybe I'll video one or two of them. But like I said, I'm really about ready to get this thing over with. So you've seen how they come out. They go in exactly the opposite way. Let me pop those things in, and we'll be back. Okay, guys. So I went ahead and dropped all the plugs down into the holes, and I'm just snugging them up here by hand before I put any put a wrench or anything on my extension. And you know, I still have to do the PCV valve that's right here. A lot easier to access with the upper intake off, obviously. Now these are Champion brand spark plugs. You know, I know some people might have, you know, their preference on a certain brand or whatnot, or dislike a one brand over another, or something of the same. I personally am not like a fanboy or loyal to like any particular brand, for the simple fact of like, even on my own vehicles, I understand, you know, if somebody's in a situation where obviously they're bringing a vehicle to, you know, a shade tree mechanic or a backyard mechanic or whatnot, or if, you know, if you're in a situation where you're DIYing something, more often than not, you're probably doing that to save money, because you're on a budget and you're trying to do it, you know, cost effective. I'm not saying that, you know, you should always buy, you know, Amazon parts or the cheapest parts possible or anything like that. Obviously, you want to go with, you know, a reputable brand. You don't want to risk detrimental damage to your own vehicle or someone else's by cheaping out on parts. But I like to, you know, I understand that if somebody's bringing their car to me to fix, that they're probably trying to save money. So you know, I'll give an option. You know, do you want, you know, this brand costs this much, do you want those? Or, you know, this brand's decent, do you want those? And they may not last as long, but for the time being, you know, these Champion plugs will be just fine in this car. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. You know, if you have a feeling about that and you want to hit the comments and, you know, vent about it a little bit, I guess, or whatever, then I'm not saying it's going to fall on deaf ears, but like I said, I'm not loyal to any particular brand, and I don't dislike any other particular brand, as long as you're not, like I said, you're not cheaping out and buying eBay or Amazon non-name brand products, you know. But it's the same with like motor oil or something like that. You know, if somebody wants to run full synthetic Mobil 1 or Royal Purple or something like that, then by all means, if you have the funds and the ability to do so, then yeah, of course, it's a you know, much better product than, you know, Walmart brand oil or something of the sort, so, or AutoZone oil or whatnot. But like I said, I'm realistic, and I understand that I'm doing this job because I'm doing it probably cheaper than somebody else is doing it. So anyway, I've got all the spark plugs snugged up. Just double check, make sure I'm not overly cranking these things, and I'm not putting a torque wrench on. I've done so many thousands of spark plugs in my life that, you know, you can put a torque wrench on them if it makes you feel more comfortable. I'm perfectly comfortable hand tightening them like that. I am going to put a little bit of dielectric grease on the inside of the spark plug boots here. I don't know if I held that out far enough for you guys to see, but I am going to put, you know, just a dab on the inside of the boots there. And there's a misconception about dielectric grease as well, where, you know, a lot of people think that maybe it promotes electrical connection or conductivity. There's motorcycles going by. I'm outside, obviously. There's a lot of misconception that the dielectric grease will actually promote conductivity or make a better connection. It certainly does not. Dielectric grease in itself is non-conductive. It's an insulator, not a conductor, and what it is doing when you put it in the spark plug boots or in an electrical connector of any type for that matter is it's keeping the electrical connection from going where it shouldn't. In this case, we're keeping the electrical connection going from the coil to the spark plug and not arcing outside of where we want it. So not entirely 100% necessary. Does make removal and longevity of the lifespan of your coils or spark plug wire boots, you know, obviously, because when you go to take them off next time you have to do maintenance on it, you're not going to have to you know, yank on them. They're going to come off hopefully easier. But as far as helping conductivity or, you know, electrical connection, no, it doesn't do that. I'm not a scientist or a chemist or anything like that, but trust me when I say that it does not. So, and I did drop the cap for it, but that's fine. We'll get that later. Let me finish this up. I'm going to tighten these all down. I'm going to finish this up, get these all plugged back in, and then I will come back to the video when we're ready to do that PCV valve. Okay, so I've got the spark plugs all back in. I got the coils back on the plugs. We're gonna work on this EGR, or this PCV, I mean, EGR. PCV, it's real simple. One electrical connector here, and then there's one of these connectors here that you just pull the tab over, boom, it slides up over off the top. And then it should be like a quarter turn into the valve cover, and that one just goes that way, quarter turn counterclockwise, and it's just going to come up and out just like that. And then we have a new one. You put it in, obviously reverse process, easy peasy, no big deal. It's going to be a new one, and that is somewhat the noise that I heard. Yeah, I'm shaking both here. Yeah, you can see that one's not making as much noise, but that's kind of a noise that I was familiar with as a PCV valve that's kind of worn out or whatnot, and that's kind of the noise I heard when I spoke at the beginning of the video. I said this car had a noise under the hood, so just throwing that on there. It's not too expensive. I think it was like 20 bucks, and it's good practice for, you know, if you're doing a tune-up. It doesn't hurt. Throw one of those on there, and then obviously just electrical connector goes back in, and the connector just snaps over the top just like that, and then the other end will obviously connect into the intake manifold there. So we're pretty much just about done with this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and throw everything back together, new air filter, and then get it wrapped up, and I'm check the engine oil before we start it, and we should be about done with this. So I did state earlier in the video, if you guys recall, I did replace, it's probably been a couple years now, but I did replace the upper lower intake gaskets and valve cover gaskets with new VVT solenoid seals in here. So, and I'm looking down, and I mean, try and get you guys a good view. There you go. Down at the surfaces at the bottom of the intake, like that one there, still clean. So the oil leak, I mean, you can see where I cleaned the surface a little bit here too, and I don't see any oil leaking, you know, like from the valve cover or anything, any newer oil that would lead me to believe that was a you know, a failed repair or anything like that. So that oil leak and all the oil that we see on the bottom of the engine is coming from somewhere else. So whether it be, I don't know, timing cover, or the oil pan is probably leaking too, but whatever it is, like I said, we'll probably get this car back at some point in time and try to figure out what that oil leak is all about. And then I did mention also that I was going to shake the tires while I had it up in the air, and I forgot. So I will jack this thing up before I give it back to the customer, shake the tires, and try and figure out what's wrong with the suspension and why it does that. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing wrapped up, and that's probably gonna end it for this video today. Like I said, it all goes back in opposite of how you took it out. But I'm like I said, 2 trips to the parts store for that elbow down there, and I'm just ready to be done for today. So that'll do it for today, guys. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.